Yeah. But Ari's not that far away from me.
Yeah, it's not bad.
How far is it?
It's like
2 hours.
Oh, that's
come
pretty
on,
far.
Ari.
2
Ari
hours
must
each
drive
way?
slow.
That's pretty far.
Well, I mean,
It's like Austin to San Antonio. Like any way you
Also
cut
like
it,
hour and
no
a
matter
half.
what time you leave, it's going to be like an hour and a half.
you don't know what part of Charlotte I live, Olivia.
Oh, okay, well maybe you're like in the Highlands.
You don't know what part.
Like maybe you
Y'all
really
don't know
live
me.
like.
Y'all don't know me.
Wait, clearly isn't living uptown where my shop was at. I don't know
Yeah,
where.
I don't live
I don't
in
know
a
what hood you're in,
high-rise.
Ari.
I live in the woods.
Yeah, maybe
Middle
you
of
just
nowhere.
say you live in Charlotte and you don't actually
Ari's
live
got a
in
ranch.
Charlotte.
Ari's got a ranch and
Right? A tree house out there. And then Charlie,
Yeah.
are you going to share your news?
which one? About my
How many
baby boy?
newses do you have? Yes. That's
Yeah, I guess I could.
exciting.
Could share that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hell, I'm recording, so I'm having a baby boy due
Oh.
in May. Yeah, we waited to find out the gender until a couple of weeks ago, so it was kind of scary to find out we're having a boy because I know what I was like as a young boy, and hopefully my son is a little more well mannered than I was, but we'll see.
Were you bad?
I don't know.
Yeah,
well,
I was
you're the younger kid, right?
Yeah,
You're the baby?
I was kind of a, I'd say I was a bad kid. I had a lot of energy and I like to make people laugh.
Yeah.
And, I like to put myself in situations that were fun, but not necessarily what adults think kids should be doing.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like my
I was always in
little
the
one.
principal's office and
Yeah.
skateboarding and,
Yeah.
maybe I was a bad kid. I don't know.
Yeah. It's just
So,
super cool.
let's get into it here. We've got quite a few things on the agenda. I guess I could play the intro music. Where is it?
Do we need to bop our heads? Is it still showing us during intro music, or is it?
No,
still-
I show like a
Okay.
picture now.
All right, you can calm down on the bopping over there. It's
Oh,
not-
I thought you wanted to bob your head. I didn't realize you were doing it because you thought you had to.
I always watch Ari. He always takes a
Yeah.
sip of water during
Come
the
on.
middle of the song. Bops too hard.
Oh, sorry, I thought I was playing it, but I had it on preview. See, now you got me thinking. Now I'm trying not to bob my head.
It's another Friday. This week I did it my way. I made lots of juice, and now I feel a boost. Baby say, oh, it's the way I make my juice. Pressing fruits and roots. This week I did it my way. Baby say, oh, now let's have some fun. There is nothing greater than Fridays at Goodnature.
Ow, ow, ow! What's up, my juice lovers? Welcome to Goodnature Radio. This is your host, Charlie Wetlaufer, joined by the two top juice business consultants in the world, Chef Ari Sexner, the author of The Juicing Companion, Olivia Esquivel, founder and owner of Southern Pressed Juicery, the award-winning juice bar, also the founder of Wild Crafty Collection. Goodnature Radio is the podcast where the juicing industry comes together to get help with starting and growing a juice bar, home-based juice business, or cold-pressed juice delivery company. This podcast is brought to you by none other than the great Goodnature Products Incorporated, the world leader in commercial cold-pressed juicers and juice business consulting since my dad started it in 1976. If you'd like to send us a comment or question by leaving us a voice message, and we've got 2 voicemails to play today, you can do that over at goodnature.com/radio. It's also where you can request a free consultation with Ari and Olivia and download valuable resources. Also, if you want to discuss any of the topics on this podcast, we have a very active private Facebook group. You can search for it on Facebook. It's called Goodnature Juicing. It's up to over 3,000 members now, which is pretty awesome.
Wow.
and always good discussions going on there. If you have a question, it's probably been asked there like 3 times already. It's a really good place for information. All right, so we've got quite a bit to catch up on today. Let's see. So, first of all, I just wrote down something here. I found out today that Kelly Slater follows Goodnature. How cool is that?
That's awesome.
Wow.
Kelly, if you're listening, I will send you a free Goodnature machine. All you have to do is carry it with you while you win a surfing competition on the surfboard.
It's easy.
Hit me up. Let's see. Expo West is coming up next week, which is probably the biggest sort of natural foods and beverage convention in the world. That takes place in Anaheim. I'm probably going to be down there for one day. I'm trying to find flights. I waited too long. It's kind of ridiculous right now. I already bought my conference ticket, but now I have to find flights and there's like nothing. Olivia is going to talk about a change she's made recently to her business. I don't want to spoil it yet as I go over the agenda. Surprise, artificial sweeteners are bad for you. We're going to talk about a new study that came out. We have 2 voicemails today from the Goodnature family. I'm going to talk a little bit about a conversation I had with someone recently about copacking. I'm going to talk about the Goodnature Marketplace, which we made an announcement about recently. And that's about it. That's a pretty long agenda.
That's a lot.
This might be a 3-hour podcast today.
Yeah. Buckle up, boys.
Okay, so let's start with Olivia. Talk about what's going on in your business.
Okay, well, there are a lot of things. This taking this week off of the podcast, I think, is really good because it gives time for things to happen.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, sorry.
So,
Before we continue,
I
apologize that we didn't air last week. I went on a family ski trip and I forgot to tell everyone that we weren't going to be on last week. So we're doing it this week instead of last week. It's actually been 3 weeks since the last episode. All right, Olivia, continue.
No wonder a lot has happened. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't even know it'd been that long. Well, for those of you that follow me or Southern Pressed Juicery, you may have seen that we decided to close our Charlotte juice bar, and I've gotten a lot of questions about how I structured that deal and why we decided to close, which are valid questions, and a lot of great comments of support. So that deal was in a very, very popular Charlotte shopping center. It's been there for 20, 30, 40 plus years, and it is the go-to shopping center in Charlotte. We've been asking around. Charlotte's about an hour and a half. Ari says it's 2 hours from Greenville to Charlotte, where we're based. And there's a lot of crossover between the two towns. So, for a lot of years, people have been asking us to come to Charlotte. And it's hard. We tried opening in Austin. It was too far away. We closed that shop. We felt like we were sort of missing, the products that were coming out were great, but we were sort of missing that home feel. We're really comfortable in our town and have a lot of networking capabilities. So Charlotte was like always on our radar, but we've always said it had to be the unicorn spot. Lo and behold, the unicorn spot came open. The developers of the space knew about us, contacted us, and basically courted us for 2 years because they couldn't find anybody to fill the space. The space was an existing juice bar. And when I tell you I had to buy nothing, I mean, I think I bought one blender, and I think I replaced, because I wanted to, an under-counter fridge. It was slap some lipstick on a pig and open the door. So it was a very low entry cost for us to test the market, to see if it was something that we felt we could manage from 2 hours away, to see if it had the same reaction, as we were getting in South Carolina. And more than that, the landlords agreed to give us a year lease. And so we were like, how can we not do this? I mean, this is really, when does an opportunity like this come around where we can test the best shopping center in Charlotte for just a very low entry level juice? And we already had an extra X1 that we had used in Austin. So really it was like kind of like a 2 hour trip, drop everything off and open the doors. So we did that. And it was, you measure success in different ways. The numbers were fine. they were fine for the lease staying at the position that the lease was structured in for the 1 year. The way that we structured the lease was we said, okay, we'll be willing to stay here if the numbers are fantastic. Like if we're just, we can't close the doors, the numbers are so great. So as a result of the developer giving us a year contract, they said, okay, but in year 2, your rent's going to double. Our numbers were solid for year 1. They were not solid enough for double rent. So for us, we sort of looked around the table and made the decision, like, could this get to where we wanted it to be if we were willing to foot the bill for 4 or 5 years, really work ourselves into this market, really get to know the gyms around us, get to know the schools, get to know the moms. I had signed one of my right-hand girls who was from Charlotte. She agreed to give me a year because I pulled her out of nursing school. So it was sort of like all based on this 1 year. But with everything changing, her going to nursing school, me not having another really strong general manager there that I felt like could manage the front of the house and back of the house, and rent doubling, it just seemed like too big of a risk that we weren't really willing to take on at this point. Like, again, we could have fitted the bill for 4 or 5 years and it gotten to, probably a $2 or $3 million unit. But with the volatile situation right now with food costs and everything, our food cost is extremely high right now. We just decided, you know what, let's take the revenue that we had for a year. It was always intended to be a pop-up. And to be quite frank, they leased out the space out from under us without telling us. So we really didn't even have a chance. We didn't even have a chance. They basically said, like, we found somebody who was willing to pay more, and they sort of cheated on the contract a little bit. And so we said, that's it. So we'll continue to look for other places to pop up. Closing your doors doesn't always have to mean that you're not doing a good job. It just has to be the right thing at the right time. And so that's why I just caution you as you look for a second or third or even first location, don't jump at the first thing that, that comes out at you. Wait for that unicorn deal, work it. There's a lot of places that have closed. So you've got the upper hand right now. To make sure that you can get a deal that works for you, that you're not financing your home and your car and your first kid to make it work. Just, I'm all about people opening up shops, but just make sure that there's an exit strategy if it's not heading in the direction you want it to. So that was my news.
So curious about the lease contract. Were they giving you artificially low rent the first year because they really wanted you in there or something?
Yeah. So we said to them, we will only test the waters for 1 year. Typically we try to take like a 5 or, 3, 5 or 10 year deal, like pretty low. And they said, we'll do you one better. All the equipment is here. We'll give you 1 year at this cheap rate. Relatively speaking, I think it was like $2,500 or something like that, but it's going to double if you decide to stay year 2. Well, we opened in April and May. Somewhere around there, which, the realtor came to us, the developer, after the first 3 months. And we were like, well, yeah, we're going gangbusters, but every juice bar in America is going gangbusters right now. It's spring and summertime. Like, we really need to see where this, takes us full circle. This April, May, and June is not a good indication of where you're going to be in, December, January, February. Right. So, yeah, so it was, if the rent would have stayed at the $2,500, which I know a lot of clients are always asking me, like, what's the going rate for? So I share that for that reason, that's, you're talking about a really metropolitan city. It was going up to $5,000, which is more than what I pay in Greenville. I think in Greenville we pay $4,500 or something like that for our space. And we just didn't think the numbers were going to work. We had a heavy salaried general manager who'd only committed a year to us. Food costs were rising. And the numbers were solid, but they weren't, we weren't going to be making bank at $5,000 rent and a heavy salary. We could have gotten it where we needed it to be. We just didn't really feel like our energy was all the way in it, and then finding another space and then rebuying the whole equipment package because we didn't get to take the equipment with us that was left there. It just wasn't, it was kind of just a better deal to take the money that you made for that 1 year, the exposure into the Charlotte community, which is frequently in Greenville, feel like, hey, at least we tested it out and we can continue to look for the right space.
A company, like a public company, sometimes will go out of business. Everyone thinks, oh, the business failed.
Right.
But sometimes the company makes a decision specifically to go that direction because they'll return more money for the shareholders. Like
Right.
an example is Kodak.
Mm-hmm.
So Kodak made all their money off of film, right? They sell cameras and they sell you film, and you buy new film every week or every month or whatever. And the new digital cameras just started to sort of come out a little bit as new technology, and they had a chance to either become the new digital camera company or keep selling film. And they decided, knowing eventually that digital cameras would put them out of business, that they were just going to keep selling film. And over the next decade or whatever, they made billions of dollars selling film. It eventually went bankrupt, and everyone's like, oh, Kodak failed. It's like, no, they specifically decided that it would be a better decision to get out of, to not chase the digital camera industry, because that's going to put their film business out of business. So it'd just be better to just keep selling film for a while. So it's just kind of an interesting antidote.
Yeah, I mean, it was great exposure. The product was great. Ari's been by. The place was beautiful. It was just such a low entry point for us. It was almost a deal that we couldn't turn away, and we knew when we opened the deal what the rent was going to do in year 2. So we basically knew, like, unless we open this place and it's lying out the door 7 days a week, year 2 and 3 and 4 probably isn't going to work for us. But it was an opportunity for us to test the market and see, how much space do we really need in this market. There's a lot of competitors in Charlotte. There's a lot of really great juice bars there. A lot more competition there than in Greenville. So for us, yeah, it was, we intended that space to be a year pop-up. And that's what it was. So we'll continue to look for other places to pop up. That's something that we're seeing a lot of, even like high level designers are doing that in other big cities. They're signing basically like co-leasing places, or signing a 6-month lease or a year lease. Obviously, and that's not what you want to do for your first brick and mortar in terms of like really establishing yourself. But if you have an opportunity to try something across town, or maybe in the next county or the next city over for a short period of time, and still stay, really solid in your first location, then I think it's a valid option to even look at. You just want to make sure you're not sinking the main ship to keep everybody else afloat. And that's a really difficult part. But if you've got an opportunity at a low cost to try a new market, I mean, why not?
Makes sense, especially since you didn't have to buy equipment or build out
it was
the place
turnkey.
or anything.
Turnkey.
Wow.
Yeah, turnkey.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
So,
actually not a bad
other than
deal.
they
Thank
didn't
you
have
for
an
sharing that with
X1.
us.
Yeah, they clearly went out of business because they didn't have an X1. So I rolled that sucker in there.
Oh, speaking of juice machines, forgot to mention, Goodnature is running a sale right now.
I saw that. It's huge.
15% off M1s and X1 minis. We haven't run a 15% off sale since 2020, when the pandemic just started and everybody stopped buying juice machines and we had all this inventory. And then 2021 and 2022, things picked up a lot. So, and we intentionally over ordered inventory because there's all these supply chain issues and we didn't want to run out of parts. But then things slowed back down at the end of last year. So now we have all these extra inventory. So we're running a sale that we haven't run a sale like this in 3 years, and we probably won't again for quite some time. So if anyone listening, considering buying a machine, this will probably be the only chance you have to get it for 15% off. Sale goes till the end of March. There are some terms, like it has to be paid in full by the end of the month. Sometimes we allow deposits and then balance paid later, but it has to be paid in full. It's not for financing offers. It's not valid for machine shipping to Australia, Japan, or Spain because we have exclusive distributors there. And other than that, I think that's it. So yeah, if you're thinking about buying an X1 Mini or an M1, March would be the month to do it for sure. Get ready for spring. Okay, that leads me into some other Goodnature news. I want to talk about the marketplace. So I made an announcement on our blog about a week or so ago about the new marketplace we're launching, which I'm super excited about. Over the next couple months, you'll start to see us making announcements about some very exciting brands coming out of the marketplace. So the vision here is that juice bars, our Goodnature family, our customers, be able to buy everything they need for the juice bar in one place, whether it's packaging materials, acai, bottles, maybe even like frozen fruit and stuff for smoothies, adaptogens, protein powder. Olivia, we've been talking about getting your brand down there, which I'm really excited about. Also been having calls all week with some other great brands. I don't want to give out any spoilers, but there's going to be some really fun stuff coming, and I'm really excited about it.
I was just going to say, Charlie, I think that's huge because we were training a new manager on ordering through our purveyor. And this was even when Ari was in our shop last week, but they were, we're talking about a huge purveyor, Performance Food Group, which is like a Cisco or, Cheney Brothers or something like that. And every time she would look up an ingredient, there would be like 10 different varieties, and she'd click on the wrong one. And I'm like, no, not that one. That's not the right price to do your inventory or price check. So it would be amazing to have the bulk of your products in one place, just so that you don't have any mistakes on reordering. It's very easy for your staff to go in and place an order for you because you know exactly, I'm sure there's been some sort of order tracking history, but you're just not getting confused with if you're ordering, vegan cheese or absolutely ordering cheddar cheese instead, and it's showing up at your shop. I mean, that kind of stuff happens all the time when you use big purveyors. So this is huge for juice bars. It's going to facilitate ordering so much.
Yeah, that you can see your order history, you can reorder, you can even subscribe to stuff if you want it to come like every week or every month or whatever. So yeah, I'm kind of curating the list of merchants to bring on. I really want this to be viewed as sort of a high quality premium marketplace for, our customers, people that use Goodnature machines and do things right and serve really high quality food. So we'll have only good brands on here. And I'll have, the founders come on the podcast and talk about the brand and the history of the products and everything. And lots of the brands we're onboarding are actually started as Goodnature customers and have launched new products, kind of like you, Olivia. So it's going to be a really fun journey of growing this marketplace. If anyone listening, if you have suggestions of brands you want to see in the marketplace, or you have your own brand that would like to be in the marketplace, just check out goodnature.com/marketplace, and there's a form there you can fill out. All right, so did we talk about Expo West already, or is that before we started recording? I think I was recording.
We talked about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that you were heading out there.
All right. There's a new study came out a couple days ago talking about artificial sweeteners and how they may be linked to causing blood clotting and strokes and heart attacks. So I'm just going to read this update from CNN here. I'll try to put it on the screen. A sugar replacement called Erythritol, used to add bulk or sweeten stevia, monk fruit, and keto-reduced sugar products, has been linked to blood clotting, stroke, heart attack, and death, according to a new study. The degree of risk was not modest, said lead study author Dr. Stanley Hazen, director of the Center for Cardiovascular Diagnostics and Prevention, the Cleveland Clinic Lerner Research Institute. People with existing risk factors for heart disease, such as diabetes, were twice as likely to experience a heart attack or stroke. They had the highest levels of erythritol in their blood, according to the study, published Monday in the journal Nature Medicine. If your blood level of erythritol was in the top 25% compared to the bottom 25%, there was about a twofold higher risk for heart attack or stroke. It's on par with the strongest of cardiac risk factors like diabetes. Additional lab and animal research presented in the paper revealed that erythritol appeared to be causing blood platelets to clot more readily. Clots can break off and travel to the heart, triggering a heart attack, or to the brain, triggering a stroke. This certainly sounds an alarm. The Dr. Andrew Freeman, Director of Cardiovascular Prevention and Wellness at National Jewish Health Hospital in Denver, who is not involved in the research. There appears to be a clotting risk from using erythritol, Freeman said. Obviously, more research is needed, but in abundance of caution, it might make sense to limit erythritol in your diet for now. In response to the study, Calorie Control Council, an industry association, told CNN that the results of the study are contrary to decades of scientific research showing reduced calorie sweeteners like erythritol are safe, as evidenced by global regulatory permissions for their use in foods and beverages. So when I read this, the Calorie Control Council, I'm like, that sounds like some kind of weird industry group, right? And look it up. What is the Calorie Control Council? Calorie Control Council is a trade group of manufacturers of artificial sweeteners.
Of course.
So their council is coming out saying that's not true.
That's Coca-Cola's council. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. According to his website, the Calorie Control Council represents manufacturers and suppliers of low and reduced calorie foods and beverages. So, of course, their industry group is saying, no, they're safe for you. So, reading something like this, first of all, I've always been very skeptical of any new artificial sweetener that comes out. If it's not, first one will come out, like, what are those old ones they always have on the tables at diners and stuff?
Sweet and low.
Sweet and low, like those come out,
stuff.
and then like a decade later, they're like, oh, surprise, these are bad for you. And then they're like, oh, well, now there's stevia. And then it comes out like, oh, stevia is bad for you. And then the most recent one's like monk fruit. Now people are putting monk fruit in everything. And of course, monk fruit is loaded with erythritol, a lot of it. And now it turns out that's causing blood clots. It's like, I don't know. Anytime you get into tricking your body to make it think something's sweet, I just think it's probably not good.
It's crazy with those artificial sweeteners, how much more potent the sweetness level is. I talked to a few people and they were telling me kind of the levels, and I think it was like equal, that artificial sweetener was 100 times sweeter than regular white cane sugar. And that's just insane. I couldn't even imagine how much testing actually you'd need to do to know if it's safe, and these guys are making a product that you'd have to do such extensive research on testing on every possibility of what can go wrong. And it's scary stuff, man.
Yeah, but yet, they regulate us on if you're manufacturing your juice in this location, we have to get some sort of a, what's it called, chef, when you,
HACCP.
Yeah, or get a HACCP. No, I wasn't thinking HACCP plan, but like the allowance.
Oh, a validation study, whatever.
Yeah, like you have to do all of these things in order to just even sell a juice that you produced in a different address, right? It's just crazy. Today I was on a field trip with my kid, and he wanted soda, and so we were having lunch in the cafe. So I went up to get him a Coke, right? And and the lady's like, "We don't have Coke. We have Coke Zero." And I said, "Are you sold out of Coke? What about like just a regular Dr. Pepper or a Sprite? Do you have just a regular non-diet?" And she's like, "No, honey, because this is now the field trip and it's the school system, we're only allowed to sell things that are diet."
Oh,
I was
my
like,
God.
"What?" Like, I was like,
man.
"No,
That
just
is
give me a
so
regular Coke.
bad.
Like, give me the high fructose corn syrup over all of this stuff." I was like, I couldn't believe it. She's like, "Yeah, it's part of the dietary regulations. They have to, if they're going to get a soda, it has to be a diet soda." And I was like, "Okay,
That is so
forget
bad.
your treat. You can get it after school." It was horrible. I couldn't believe it.
I always wondered why it's in so many things that it doesn't need to be, like gum.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many gum with like aspartame in it. And I don't know the reason why. Like, does the flavor last longer, or?
I can taste it.
Probably
I can taste
cheaper,
it
more
anywhere.
shelf stable.
Yeah.
So much of formulating packaged foods is about shelf stability, right? Just getting the shelf life to be a little bit longer. Like a lot of these items are quote unquote shelf stable, meaning they can sit on the shelf for years, non-refrigerated, and be totally fine. And so it's always just like tweaking things here, tweaking things there, adding a little more chemicals or a little more of this.
I was reading an article the other day that was on theintercept.com. It was a website, and it was regarding like those really sugary cereals like Fruity Pebbles, Fruit Loops, Lucky Charms, and they're trying to get them to remove the label as being healthy on there, and the cereals are lobbying against it, saying that it's against free speech.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff is always going on. I mean, the reason why we can't distribute raw juice is because you have these big beverage and food industries lobbying for packaged foods and against like natural foods, because there's no money in natural foods compared to the shelf stable stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can, the way they make soda is they add a little bit of syrup to carbonated water, and that's the drink. It's super high margin, very profitable, shelf stable. They try to crush anything that will take up shelf space at their grocery store or make it harder for them to convince people it's healthy.
But this sort of news is like so alarming to me, right? Like clearly I feed my kids Coke, I let them have the occasional treat or whatever, but they're also eating spirulina at home with me, veggies every night, clean protein. So to me, it's like that 80-20 balance of, I'm not going to let them be the kid on the bleacher that doesn't have a piece of popcorn. I mean, fine if you do that. It's just not the way I'm raising my kids. But, it's like at what point, why is it never going to be in America, or at least no chance right now, where there's like everybody stop, there's, recall. I mean, they do it with our cars. I don't understand why it wouldn't be an immediate, this is a suspected, health factor for our public at large. Everybody recall your products until further investigation proceeds. I mean, it's like, then it all just becomes hearsay and it grows into some other thing. And that industry is just so hard to stop, and our kids just continue to eat it. And I just don't, they do it in America. I mean, in Europe, like the McDonald's menu is totally different in Europe than it is in the US, and the ingredients are totally different. I wish that we would have the same regulations.
I think it's because the way our legal system is, there's so much pressure from industry groups and the government.
Yeah.
And people in the FDA, they cycle in and out of companies like Coca-Cola and Pepsi.
Right.
They go work at the FDA for a while, and then they go to a pharmaceutical company, or they go work at Pepsi, and then they go to the FDA. And the food and beverage industry spends the second most amount of money on lobbying behind pharmaceuticals. Did I say that right? Food and beverage spends second most. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's tremendous pressure on individual politicians to kind of always be looking out for the big industry groups. And it seems like lately the companies finding that some things are bad for you and dangerous, and the ones testing it aren't even the government. There's this third-party lab now taking over-the-counter medication and testing it and finding out that it's like loaded with harmful stuff. It seems like the FDA should be doing that, but they don't.
Right.
Because really, I don't know. I kind of feel like the FDA is more set up to make sure that large companies have a monopoly, and it's really hard to get things approved.
Yeah.
But once things are approved, they just kind of ignore it, right? So for you, like Olivia, if you want to launch a wholesale product and get it approved by the FDA, some new ingredient or something, you probably don't have the money, you don't have the lawyers,
right.
You don't have the lobbying power, but these big companies do. So it really benefits them to have all the regulation.
Well, I think that's why it goes back to what you always say, that maybe juice isn't meant to be a big industry, like.
Yeah.
But, it goes
I kind
back
of feel
to
like
the power
juice,
of social media,
I think juice is like anti big beverage. That's the way I see it. It's like the opposite of big beverage,
No, right. Yeah. But I think that's what makes it so important to have your local juice bar,
100%. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, who else is going to be educating these people?
Right.
All right. We have a couple voicemails. First one is from Lindsay. No, sorry. We'll go with Aaron first.
Hello, my name is Erin, and I own a juice bar in Harwichport, Massachusetts by the name of J Bar. I am going into my 9th season, and I have a lot of questions for you. I first just want to say that I listen to every one of your episodes, and I really enjoy your show. I think you all do such a great job. You're very cool, and I really appreciate that. But I was trying to narrow down my questions, and this one I think will help with labor and just a lot of processes. And I was wondering, what size do you suggest if we were going to narrow down to having just one size juice and smoothie?
Okay, there we go. Ari, you want to start?
Yeah. So we get this question a lot. Size of juice, not too much on smoothie, but I feel there's a lot of factors involved. Juices, 16 ounce used to be the way to go. 4 or 5 years ago, 16 ounces was extremely important. That's kind of the standard. There's been a huge shift. I'd say mostly because the rising cost of produce is a big factor in there, but also kind of research on the issue. I think it's a huge shift to like 12 or 14 ounce is now kind of a lot more popular. I'd say stick with one size, especially if you're doing glass bottles, because you got to think if you're having multiple sizes, that's going to take up a ton of space. You know, if you're doing glass bottles, you got to have that storage space, even with one size. But with 12 or 14 ounce, that slightly less portion size, you're going to get a much more aggressive price point just with that 2 or 4 ounces less. So you have a much aggressive price point, but also people will tend to buy more bottles of juice rather than just one standard 16 ounce. They might buy 2 different flavors or 2 different bottles of juice. And I find a lot of times if the juice blend is really sweet, 16 ounces is too much. And a lot of times people will just drink a little bit and put it away. So I recommend probably 12 or 14 ounce. It definitely helps out with, the costing of the product, making your menu more approachable. But there's also a demand for 16 ounce in certain areas. But in general, I'd say 12 or 14 ounce. And then smoothies, I think slightly higher is better than 16 ounce. I'd say around 18, 20 ounces for smoothie, I think is a good fit. I haven't seen too much shift in sizing from there, but smoothies, I'd possibly offer 2 different sizes, a 16 and 24, something like that. I wouldn't go too much higher. But that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, we do a 16 ounce all across the board. And I'm highly considering moving to a 12 ounce. Right now, I've just got some inventory that I'm sitting on, both labels that are already printed and say that they're 16 ounce and bottles as well. So I haven't actually, I've held the 12 and the 16 ounce because I, do this every year when I'm deciding about what changes we're going to be making, if at all. And really, when I hold the 12 ounce bottle, at least my square bottle that I use, and the 16 ounce, they feel relatively the same. They really look the same. To me, the 12 ounce seems a little bit thinner, and at least the bottle that I'm holding. But they're so close in size that I think that if I were to walk in tomorrow and replace every single bottle in my cases with a 12 ounce of the same juice, same looking label, I think less than 20% of people, 25% of people would notice. It's not like you're looking at a small and a large. It's very nominal, the size difference. So I think that I would probably, in the future, I think that when I'm able to, I'll probably move down to a 12 so that I can get a little bit more margin, lower my prices a little bit, because I do feel like I'm at the top of what the market will bear right now in terms of a retail price. I don't want to go any higher than $11 or $12 juice. So, our Chef Ari is working on reworking some of our menu and juice recipes so that we can get a better margin. And I think the next step after that will probably be looking a little bit more seriously into going to a 12 ounce. I don't offer different sizes in smoothies and bowls just because I don't. I do a 16 ounce. I think anything bigger than that for me, at least personally, would be huge, like a biggie size. And I just think that's too much for my taste. A lot of times when they see that I don't offer a smaller size, they'll just split it into 2. But just be careful if you're doing that with bowls, because if you split a bowl into 2, like if they want to give it to 2 kids, you don't really want to make, you think about, you could split the base, but then you're adding the toppings 2 times. So your food cost is going to go up. So just make sure you have a conversation about what that looks like, that the bowl is going to maybe be obviously have less toppings on it than one full bowl. Just make sure that that's not something you're doing regularly, or create an upcharge if you are. But I think 12 to 16 ounces is the way to go.
And one thing that I know, Charlie, you were the one that actually told me about this, was the bottles actually fit more than what it says. Like those 16 ounce bottles, if you top it off, which a lot of people do, they're always talking about topping them off. That's usually a 6-ounce bottle can hold us just under 17 ounces, and that adds up very quickly, so it's always, that 0.5 to 1 ounce extra you're giving away for free and not factoring in definitely adds up the more you sell.
Yeah, some bottles have a little fill line where the 16 ounce actually is, and it's usually about like a half an inch or an inch from the top, so like 16.9 ounces. Yeah, what's interesting is I was looking at our bottle sales, and over the last couple of months, it's actually been more 12-ounce bottles being sold now than 16-ounce. And it used to be very heavily weighted towards 16-ounce. So there's definitely a trend happening where more and more companies are going to 12-ounce.
Well, I think we've actually talked about that on the pod before. I remember Ari talking about it, so it could be that they were hearing him say that and making that switch.
Yeah, that's right. Everyone is listening to us.
We're clearly the reason.
So
for the
next voicemail is from Lindsay Connell, owns Norfolk Juice Co. in Canada. Lindsay,
girl.
I've seen you on the JK Juices podcast doing some juice tasting. You've got great energy. It'd be fun to have you on our podcast someday if you want to come on.
Yeah,
and also,
she's a client
I
of
looked
mine.
up. Oh, is she? Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I think she says it on a voicemail actually. I looked up her juice bar. It's only about an hour and a half from Goodnature headquarters. She's like,
oh, she told me an
right
interesting
across-
story when she bought her juice press, she went and toured Goodnature, the whole facility, and got like swag, and she
Interesting.
wanted to know where every nut and bolt came from, and she was like, "Hello, I'm Lindsay." She's a super funny story, but yeah, that was really important for her to go and tour the facility and learn kind of the faces and the family behind Goodnature. I thought that was so cool.
It's funny. I was going to offer she could come visit, but I guess she already has.
Sorry, Charlie. Sure
But you haven't seen the new facility unless you've come in the last couple of years. But we built out new offices and stuff. It's pretty nice. Anyway, to the voicemail.
Hi, everyone. My name's Lindsay Connell from Norfolk Juice Co., located in Simcoe, Ontario, Canada. And I am a client of Olivia's, and we were having a wonderful discussion. And I brought up with the marketplace. Now, how will that work for shipping to Canada if you are going to have any different supplements instead of bottles or parts for the machine? And have you looked into that? Because I know it can be a little challenging. So looking at shipping with the products on Marketplace that you will be launching soon, bringing that to Canada. Look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
So we will not be shipping to Canada, at least in the beginning, unfortunately. It just becomes too difficult with logistics and customs, and especially if we're talking about foods and supplements and stuff. It just is there's too many issues. So unfortunately, we won't be doing that. Maybe we'll select a couple products that we know are safe to ship to Canada, like bottles and stuff, but probably not any of the food or supplements and stuff. So
Maybe we can find some Canadian-based products that we can get behind and test and make sure that we like, the quality.
yeah,
that maybe can ship
I'm
from
all for
Canada.
expanding into other areas. It also just gets tricky with like payment and sending money to suppliers overseas, and I mean not overseas, but international, and taxes and stuff. It just becomes very complicated. I think if we were to do it right, we'd grow it in the US and then open a Canadian office. Even by office, it might just be one person or two people or something.
Well,
but
Lindsay would
I mean,
raise her
and
hand. It is her dream to work
Oh,
for
nice.
Goodnature.
Yeah.
So there you go, Lindsay.
Awesome. Good to hear it. Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, look, I've got big dreams for the marketplace, right? If it's successful, I could see it definitely being an international company. We'll have the US office, Canadian office, UK, Australia, all the popular markets for wellness cafes and juice bars. Next on the agenda. So I had an interesting conversation with a friend of mine that owns a multi-location restaurant that he has an X1 and an M1, and he makes juice for other locations. And he's starting to get to the point where it's hard to keep up with the juicing. And for him specifically, like he owns full service restaurants, so full menus. They've got full 3-course meals, and they have a full bar with cocktails. And so the juice isn't a huge part of the business, but he sees it as an important part of his business. But so he called me to ask me, when do you think it's appropriate to consider moving to co-packing? In other words, paying someone else to make the juice for you, because his staff is starting to get so tied up in making juice, it's hard to run the restaurant because they're getting so busy. So this is a question I get a lot. And I also see it a lot with our customers where they open 1 location, then 2, then 3, then they're up to 5, then they're up to 10, and eventually they end up going to HPP. I mean, we saw that just happen with Clean Juice. Olivia, I know you have a HPP line in your store. And actually, most of our customers that get to like a really big operation, like 30 locations or 50 or 100, they almost always end up switching to HPP, which is always disappointing for me when I see it, because, you know me, I'm all for raw juice. I'm kind of a purist, but I understand from a business operation why it makes sense. So I don't know. My advice then was just kind of like, well, think about what you want to be. Do you want to be the company that has raw juice made in-house? Or are you okay with moving to a plastic bottle and doing HPP and sort of offloading that work onto another company? Because he's really not a juice bar. But I don't know, Olivia, I'm curious to what you think. Like if someone asks you if they should consider co-packing or HPP, how would you have that conversation with them?
So we're actually suspending the HPP product since we're no longer.
Yay!
Hey, Charlie's like, I told you so. I told you so. We can pick it back up whenever we want. But for us, it was really, we felt it was really necessary during COVID because our volume was so crazy that I think I've said it before, we just literally couldn't keep up. And so we had to take less of a margin to be able to keep up with. Now that volume has kind of settled back to what used to be normal, we feel like we can handle the production in-house, and we can certainly bring the price point down in terms of food cost. That's a tricky one. Does he currently use glass bottles?
I think he actually just switched to plastic. That's what he said when I mentioned the plastic bottle.
To me,
thing.
that's sort of a brand
was like,
change.
Yeah. He said we had trouble sourcing glass during the pandemic, so I had to switch to plastic. So they're already using plastic. So
yeah, I think I would like
to
sort of deepen a little bit, dig deeper and see
dig
how
deeper.
much of the brand really relies on that. Like, what's the sales mix on that? If it's just like a nice offering and he's got 3 or 4 SKUs, then it may be worth finding a co-packer if the co-packer is close by and if he can get the product. Right. My problem was my co-packer, I thought was close by. It felt close enough. It was in Atlanta, but I was having my purveyor bring it to me. And so every single drop was $475, no matter what was on my order. Right. And so if I had a smaller order, then my bottle price would go up. And if I had a big order, it was fine because it was minimal. So I would say if it's something within reach, that if he can find a co-packer in the same county that it costs nothing to send somebody over to pick it up and bring it over, then I think that might be more, worthy of a conversation.
All right. Ari, have you dealt with the health department in the Austin area at all? With like HEB or anything?
I've written a few HACCP plans.
Do you know how strict they are about the raw juice?
It's so that's definitely a little easier area compared to a few, for sure. I know in terms of health department, there's some places that are extremely strict, by the book, everything. Seattle, most of California, Nevada, New York, but Austin, definitely is a little bit easier to deal with for sure. I would say one thing also explore is the ability to do a production kitchen, especially if they're close or nearby vicinities. A production kitchen is always a great aspect to, it doesn't always have to be a separate kitchen, it could be possibly one of their locations has a little more space and they load up the product there, where you could actually save quite a bit. You have the labor, definitely reduce down on the labor aspect, producing not just juice, but a lot of their sauces, maybe kits for their dressings, all the sorts of stuff that kind of transports well. Could be a great option, especially if they got the space that allows it.
I think he's sort of already doing that. I think he's got an X1 in one location, and then he's making the juice for all three.
When we were in Austin, we produced Offsite in a big Mexican restaurant commercial kitchen. It was like Casa Garcia, I think. They have a lot of restaurants, and they had exactly that, basically like a commercial prep kitchen, and we rented some space to produce there, and Austin was A-okay with it. I mean, Charlie, you eat like taco trucks, like, Austin is like, you can get anything from anywhere. Nobody's paying attention there.
Yeah, I recommended to him that maybe he partner with another local juice bar. Like, I know this other couple that owns a juice bar. They have an X6, they have an X1, they have an X1 Mini. Like, they got our whole line of equipment in there. They could probably produce it for him and just deliver it in bulk to his restaurant. And I feel like if you're not delivering it to retail stores to resell, you probably can stay under the radar of the health department and not get in trouble, but I'm not totally sure.
Yeah, or they could co-brand it. They could do his logo together with the logo that made it and do it as a co-branded thing, as long as they, if they needed a HACCP plan or whatever. But that was going to be my second recommendation, is to either do a co-branded or a white label situation.
Yeah. I just worry about the reselling of the raw juice. But I feel like if you could go that route in this area, maybe that would be the way to do it. All right. Pro tips. I have to admit, I totally forgot to come up with a pro tip, but maybe I'll think of one while Ari gives his first.
I'm always first. Yeah.
I'll go first.
Okay, Olivia, pro tip, go.
All right, pro tip. No matter how established your juice bar is, beginning or, well into your lifelong juice business, I recommend you hire Ari to look at your recipes. I'm telling you, he came down to visit Southern Pressed Juicery, spent some time watching back of the house, produce without really saying much. He's the exact opposite of me. I'm like, hey, you're not supposed to do that. You're doing that wrong. And he's just back there observing. He's like, let me just watch them in their natural habitat to see if I can figure out any, processes that can be improved, or, which way are they putting the produce in what order. And then we sat down and looked at our recipes, and right off the bat, I mean, without even making the juice himself, was like, Olivia, I can take $2 off this juice, $1 off this juice, without even changing the recipe.
Nice.
Just bringing back, one ingredient, looking at the price of one ingredient and the measurement quantity of it, increasing another one. So it was like, I thought it had to be this whole big throw everything out that your regulars love and to start with something fresh. But we're not changing any recipes as far as I know. We're just reworking them and getting a better taste, a better shelf life, and a better end product for a much better margin. So pro tip, hire the pros.
I love it.
Thank you, Olivia. I appreciate that. I was going to be like, oh, Olivia always steals my pro tips. That's why when I go first.
You were my pro tip.
Yeah,
now I feel bad about it.
Ari was going to
Good for
say,
you.
hire me. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Well, my pro tip is to taste everything. It happens very rarely. You kind of get in a routine of making the same product over and over again, and you just, somewhere along the way, you just stop tasting it after you make it. Specifically for juice, you make the same juice recipes over and over again. There comes to a time where you stop tasting it. You should never stop tasting it. You'll go to fine dining restaurants, and you have someone that has their entire career as a cook or a chef making mashed potatoes. Every time they send out the mashed potatoes, they try it. Make sure the seasoning's right, everything tastes correct. You should do that with your juices. A large batch, always have tasting spoons available so that whichever employee wants to try the product as it's being made, try it along the way, but the person making it, always try it. Another thing that I never see in terms of tasting is the smoothies. You know, if you make a smoothie, have something available, be able to try a little bit, make sure it's correct. Like when you go to a high-end bar, you always see the bartenders trying, making sure that product's correct before they put it out. I think tasting is an extremely important aspect to safeguard your product.
Spoken like a true chef. I remember being taught that in hospitality school, and the final project we had to run a restaurant for a day, and I was in the back cooking in the kitchen, and you know, I was being very detailed and intricate and making sure the plates were perfect, and then sent some plates out that came back. I forgot to add salt to anything, and it's like that was when I remembered. I'm like, you have to taste it, because you get so focused on everything, you might just forget to do something, you know? And if, as soon as I tasted it, I was like, oh no, you know?
Yeah.
Like putting
So
salt
I say,
on
always
everything.
taste it. It's funny.
That's awesome.
Pro tip. Let's see. Make sure you buy an X1 Mini this month before the sale is over. I'm sorry, that's so lazy. I can't think of anything.
I
right
was
now.
actually sending you that pro tip because I was like, damn it, should I text him? I have a pro tip for him. But I think that sort of reminded me the whole inventory thing of, I'm seeing a lot of people put things on sale, but they're putting them on sale at weird numbers. Even my manager did it the other day. Something was expiring and she put it at like 35% off. I was like, what are you doing? Just mark it half off. Like that is it's so annoying. Like it's either, buy one, get one, or like just get the thing out the door. So that's as low as Goodnature's going to go. So all of you people I've been telling you need to get that X1 Mini. Here's your pro tip. Go get it now.
Now's the time.
Yeah. Take that sale.
All right. Well, it was good to see you guys again. I'm not traveling much this month. I'm doing like a couple day trips here and there, but should be able to be consistent. Oh, Ari, you're going to Thailand at the end of the month, right?
Yeah. March 15th. I'm
Oh,
going to be
in a
in
couple weeks.
Bangkok mostly. So, yeah, reach out to me if you have a juice bar in the area. I'd love to swing by. I mean, there's such amazing produce in Thailand, especially this season. So I would love to swing by your operation, talk a little bit. I have a translator. My wife is Thai, so if you don't speak English and you're listening to this for some reason, it'll be fine too. So.
Ari, I'm expecting to see great social media content from you at all of those markets showing what produce is happening right now in Thailand. So I'll be glued to your social media.
Awesome.
So I have a friend.
I
have a friend, Quang. She owns Juice Queen out there. It looks like she used to have a location in Bangkok, and now it looks like she's only on Koh Samui. So, but maybe you can try to look her up while you're out there. She's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Uh,
I'd
Yeah,
love to check
and
out some places out there for sure.
I'll try to post a couple of stories while I'm at Expo West next week. See if there's any cool new products.
Yeah, awesome. I'm mad. I really wanted to go this year, but I'm missing it. Oh, I'll tell you where I'm going next week. I'm going to be on Univision promoting Wildcrafted collection. So it's a really awesome
What the
opportunity.
heck is Univision?
Okay. God, it's like the number one network in Spanish. I have to go to Miami for it. It's like NBC or ABC or CBS.
Ah, sweet.
Yeah, it's like Telemundo and Univision. Univision, ever heard of it?
Yeah.
Do I need to say it in English?
I'm familiar with one of our other customers has been on there. Chef.
Yeah.
She was a judge at JuiceCon. I forget her name's escaping me at the moment, but she's been on there. Awesome. That's sweet.
It's
When is that
really
going to
huge
happen?
for us. On Wednesday. So it's like kind of like their version of Good Morning America. So they have a segment in the show where they feature female Hispanic entrepreneurs, and so and usually health products. So I'll be featuring Wildcrafted, and there'll be a sale on that they feature. So I'm super excited. So I'll show some behind the scenes.
That is really cool.
Yeah, it's big for us. So
Cool,
we're pumped.
congrats.
Thanks.
Yeah. Man, Ari has to fly. How long is that flight, Ari? You're gonna be on?
It's like 24 hours total.
He's taking his
24 hours of
too.
travel time with a toddler.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm taking crayons. I was like, dude, you need to take drugs.
I'll bring back a crayon. Yeah.
It's like, Ari, take the melatonin, man.
Yeah, I gotta survive that somehow.
Good luck. I'll pray for you.
I prefer not to think about it, and hopefully it just works itself out somehow.
Before you'll be there before you know it. See you guys.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great couple
I make my juice.
Bye, guys.
Pressing fruits and roots. This week I did it my way. Baby say, oh, now let's have some fun. There is nothing greater than Fridays at Goodnature.